guys, welcome to an exciting episode of the Stash Report from the Stash Project. Today's the 9th of October, 2015, and boy, guys, it is a relatively slow week. It is that little sort of hiccupy week where nothing's really going on. Second week of the month is always, well, technically speaking, this is the first week of the month, but it is the second week of the month for practical purposes. And it's always just slow right now anyway, and the sort of dearth of releases we talked about, of course, in the October release video. There's not a lot going on at the moment. However, we do have some new kit announcements, both domestic and foreign, so we have some things to look forward to in the future. There's only two whole kit releases this month, or this week, rather, so, it's a short video, guys, so just, cop a squat, we'll be done shortly. Revell of Germany put out their sort of what they call the fall release. They always do a few extra kits in the fall to sort of supplement what they announce on New Year's Day for the entire year. And there's only going to be like one jet and one automotive kit for this little supplement. And the supplement for the automotive side is a kit that I know a lot of people are really sort of if not so much looking forward to, looking to actually see, and that is the Ferrari 250 short wheelbase. This is going to be a reissue of the Italeri tool, so it's not that god-awful SE AMT crap. The Gunzi Sango one was pretty good, but it's really, really pricey, and I don't know who actually has the tooling to that. If anybody does, that may be the Gunzi Sango tooling might be one of those things that just doesn't exist anymore. But this, like I said, is supposed to be the Italeri tooling. This was actually announced probably 2 or 3 years ago. It was well before we ever started doing this little web show. And it never came to fruition. There was some sort of licensing fiasco between Ferrari and Revell and perhaps Italeri. You saw this kit get trotted out by Academy without any of the Ferrari logos or decals or anything attached to it as being like European classic sports car or something like that. This one, being a Revell reissue, will, of course, have actual, Ferrari licensing. I believe that the Ferrari licensing has sort of, I don't want to say degraded over time, but it's gotten easier over time. It was a point where Mattel held the worldwide licensing, and you sort of had to license through Mattel, through Ferrari, and that was kind of a fiasco from my understanding of how things worked, and that is no longer the case as far as being a single point of contact for their licensing department. So that may be why we're seeing this come out at the end of this year. This is a reasonable recent change toward the end of this year, end of last year, beginning of this year, as far as when that all took place. And, the Italeri tooling obviously is still serviceable. Why Italeri doesn't put it out, I don't know. But, maybe because they had the agreement to have Revell of Germany run it. Whatever the case may be, huzzah and hallelujah, it's going to come back out. Those Italeri versions were getting kind of expensive. You couldn't even find the testers versions anymore because they ran them underneath it. If you ever see, hang on, let's put a pause here. Any tester's model kit isn't tester's model kit. The closest thing they came to having model kits were all of the Boyd stuff, the Shazoom and all that stuff, which, wasn't necessarily run by testers per se. It was a third party. But, a lot of the testers' kits are Reeboxed Fujimi kits. A lot of the testers' kits are Reeboxed Italeri kits. So sometimes the cheapest way to find a Fujimi Enthusiast Series kit is to buy the testers version. Although the testers versions tend not to hold up well over time, unless you know where you're getting it from. The boxing wasn't that particularly fantastic on it, and they tended to get crushed and stuff like that. At any rate, that's all sort of neither here nor there. But a lot of times you'll see it. I bought a testers this, that, and the other thing. It turned out to be this junk Fujimi kit. Well, yeah, testers has never made anything. They've always licensed out through somebody else. Even the testers Dodge Charger, the 2006, 2007 Dodge Charger, they did the Daytona version and just the regular RT. Those are the Lindbergh kits that Lindbergh would later put out as the police cars. Lindbergh never, and the Super B8, they never put out the civilian cars themselves, as there just really wasn't a sales market for it. The other new kit announcements that we have domestically, we'll show a picture of this. This was on Sven's World of Wheels. It'll be Sean Svensson, I believe is his last name. If I'm butchering that name, I apologize. Anyway, this is the finished draft box art, I guess, because it's just sort of an illustration. It's not the actual entire box art. For the next version of the Mobius F series, and this is, of course, going to be another Model King limited version. This is the 1970 F100 Custom. You may recall the version 1 was the 1969. The 1969 has, from what I understand, sold out. And that is distributor-wise. That is not on the end-user way. I know where you can get one if you need one. Don't freak out and start paying $50 for one. They didn't sell out entirely that way. They've just sold out of the distribution supply end, which is what you want to see. Dave got his money out of them, so that's a good thing. The changes with this, other than the obvious 1970 trim, the grille and the trim and stuff like that, is that it's going to have a smaller rear step bumper rather than the big clunky dinky thing that's in the 69. I've never complained about the 69's back bumper. I mean, I have warp issues and stuff with the 69 kit. But I've never had I don't have an issue with the giant aluminum step bumper, steel step bumper that's in the 69 kit, because the 69 Custom shouldn't even have a back bumper. Those trucks from the factory did not have a bumper. If you wanted a bumper, you had to buy it at the Ford dealership or wherever and have it put on. Is it too clunky for the truck? Yeah, it is. And will the smaller one be nicer? Perhaps, possibly. But, again, if you're building it just as a straight-up farm truck, basically, it shouldn't have a bumper because it didn't come with one. So I didn't see what the big, of all of the issues that the Mobius Fords have, that's, to me, not one of them, because it was an optional part. Don't use it if you don't like it. It'll still have the 6-cylinder in it, so there's no major changes. It's not a 4x4. This is what I understood was the next kit coming. There's a lot of rumors online that a 4x4 was coming next. There's a 4x4 in the line of kits. I've seen the parts for it, but when it'll be coming out, nobody knows. This kit, expect the 1971 in the next 6 months, is what I was told. So that would be between now and the first quarter of next year. Shouldn't be too much. It's one of those situations where all this stuff is tooled at once. If you never really sat down and you sort of understand how they make the molds for model kits, they tool the entire thing at one time, more or less. Now there are separate examples of that where they tool something and then 15 years later they go down the road and they do something else with it, like the Mustang convertible that we're doing for the cancer awareness build. That kit, the base of it is a 65 Mustang 2+2 that Monogram did back in, I guess, the 80s or so, maybe even a little earlier than the 80s, but the 80s is the box art that I remember seeing it in first. Then, years later, 10, 15 years down the road, they did a convertible version, and then they did the Hertz version and the racing version. I think the racing version actually came out way back in the 80s, too, but be that as it may, the convertible version was a new body tool, done at the time that fits onto an old kit, basically. So there's those examples, of course, where tooling is done later. But for the most part, tooling is done all at once. All 5 of the trucks that are supposed to come out of this series were tooled at one time, and they're just going to be slow rolled out in different kit variations. You could probably, maybe argue that all 5 should come out at once and release it as a giant big box 5-in-1 kit. I could go for that. Really, I could, but I understand why. Obviously, it generates more sales. So, this will be just basically the 1969 short bed kit with some, exterior changes to make it the 1970 kit, and, that is what it is. Now, like I said, there's 4x4 parts. I have seen the parts runners, what it'll be, when it'll come out. I don't know, maybe next year. Probably be the best guess on that. Haven't seen any box art now that we're talking about. I haven't seen any box art for the 62 Pontiac, and that was supposed to come out, by Halloween, allegedly. So I'm guessing that's not going to be out this month. So the other new kits, these are overseas stuff. This is Fujimi's list for November. The Mitsubishi Fuso coming out as the dump truck. We were just talking about this when the Hino Super Dolphin car hauler got announced, whether or not we would see the dump truck version of the Mitsubishi Fuso. While Fujimi perhaps has not answered my emails in regarding the flat-nose Porsche and what version that is, they apparently can read our minds and, or at least watch this channel and thought that was a good idea. No, of course, planning for that is, done months and months in advance, but this is sort of a given. Now the question will be when the art truck versions will come out, because I know they have the parts for it. They're going to be reissuing several other kits. Most of these are with window masks for the first time. That's the sort of the draw to them. The one that is not necessarily that is a reissue of the Daihatsu Midget, which is the wee tiny little pickup truck. I mean, it literally, the model kit is maybe this big. I'm not even kidding, guys. It's like that big. Midget, very aptly named. Probably not politically correct. If it was made now, they'd have to call it, I don't know, something else. But that's going to be released in the Easy Kit series, which is their sort of intro beginner series. It'll be molded in color, molded in several colors, so you don't have to paint it. All the decals and like window trim and stuff like that will all be done as decals and stickers and stuff. And it's just this is a Japanese market build and play kind of deal, or not even sort of build and play, but like a Snap-Tight Max, I guess, probably a better description of it. Not designed for us here, and if you want a Daihatsu Midget, there's another glue kit that exists that came out, last year, so that's the better way to go about it. But, I understand, when we're looking at these release lists we get from the manufacturer, it's not like, oh, well, this is some stuff the United States would like, and then there's our home market stuff. That's just one list. They're going to be reissuing the Audi Quattro 20V. They did 3 different Audis. There's an Audi 80, I think it's like a 1.8E. There's the Audi 90, 2.3E, which I'm looking at. I actually have that one. And then there's this Audi Quattro 20V. The differences in these kits are very, very subtle. Wheels, some trim, mostly decals. It was pointed out the other day as we were looking over this list that the Audi Quattro chassis is not an actual Quattro chassis. It is a front-wheel drive chassis, just like the 80 and 90 that the original kits are from. So if you're real big on chassis being correct, know that your Audi Quattro doesn't come with an all-wheel drive chassis. It is a $15 kit, and the Audi Quattro version of this has not been released probably in 10 or 15 years. Actually, they're all pretty old at this point. All of them have been sort of sitting on the sidelines. They're going to be reissuing the model year 1999 Diablo. This is the sort of slightly updated. It didn't have any body upgrades, but it had different headlights where they weren't hidden headlights anymore. They were sort of an open headlight. Fujimi did a number of Diablo kits over the years, probably like 8 of them, all with very, very minor differences. There's, I also believe, a Diablo convertible. The only difference between this and the other model year 99 Diablo that you could probably find all over eBay for like, say, $18-20 is that this will come with window masks, and it's going to be like $17. There's the last thing that Fujimi is going to be reissuing is the Ferrari 512 BB and BBI in a sort of a combo kit. Excuse me. Now, anybody who pays attention knows that the 512 BB just got reissued under the Circuit Wolf series at the very beginning of this year. What is the BBI, you ask? Well, all right, well, if you're not real big on your Ferrari Boxer Berlinettas, the BBI was the fuel-injected version of the 512. And it had some very, very minor modifications to it. The 512 BB, the Boxer Berlinetta, has a grille that goes all the way across the front mouth opening, if you will. The BBI, because it was a later model year, what I'm trying to spit out, had the driving lights exposed. There are a few other minor changes, and they were separate model kits at one point, and like those, they're going to be combined into one. I plan to get one just to get the fuel-injected engine option, because these kits, if you have not ever seen a 512, they do come with a complete engine, more or less, or probably a little less than you would expect out of, say, a Revolve Germany Ferrari engine, but it's not just like an engine insert that's molded into the chassis and some parts that go on top. This is an actual engine block. It's somewhere between real simple and enthusiast series. It's in the middle there. And there is a difference. They did do a carbureted version for the 512, and they did do a fuel-injected, has the same Bosch K-Tronic fuel injection, actually, that the Countach kit that just came out here recently has. So if you're really into your Ferrari collection, then you'll need one because, well, that fills a small nano spot in your 512s. And that's it as far as kit releases or kit news or announcements go, I believe. Yes. All right. So 2 kit releases this week, 1 domestic, 1 foreign. This I don't even know what to say about this. This right out of round 2 is the 1934 Ford pickup Roadster. This is not the 34 Ford pickup that you're thinking of, the old AMT tooling that somehow Lindbergh got a hold of. This is the 1960s era Lindbergh-specific 34 Ford pickup Roadster. It is a really cruddy pile of plastic shoved in a brand new box. Am I surprised? No, of course not, because round 2 is going to run any serviceable tool they can get their hands on. What is new about this, if you want to use that term, which I believe is even dubious, is the fact that it's going to have some new decals. It's going to have what they're calling rat options, which I'm not exactly sure what that means. I haven't seen a parts tree breakdown for it. And then it's got some photo etch. Now, what the photo etch is going to include is that grill shell. That's kind of cool. The blower itself, if you look at that blower, it sort of looks weird and goofy and like a mailbox slot like glued into a paint tray. That's because that entire thing is like a multi-folding piece of photo etch. There's a photo etch like rear tail light section. I don't know. I try not to be negative about stuff. I really am not going to be the guy that's all like, oh, look, it's a model kit. We should just be happy they make them. It's what it is. If you have ever been subjected to this kit in the past, then you know exactly what you're getting. You're just getting some doodads thrown in here. If you've never been subjected to this kit, I would suggest, going and finding any of the actual AMT-based 34 Ford pickup trucks and making one of your own. The only thing that may possibly be of use here will be that grill shell, and I don't think spending $28 to get a photo etch grill shell is worth anybody's money. I don't know that all the parts are in here to do that, because it used to be like a 3-in-1 kit, back in the day. I don't even know if all the parts are in there to do all of that stuff. So it's a mess. I don't understand, and the idea that this is going to be a series frightens me greatly. The other kit release is the Hasegawa Mazda Cosmosport. This would be, I guess, the 1968 version here. There's like a L10B. I was gonna say there's like a trim level to this. L10B is a 1968 version. This would be was sort of Mazda's first sports car. Had the rotary in it. It's a cool little kit. It's the second of the historic car sets. I almost cursed there, but I didn't. The second of the historic car series kits, the first one being the Toyota 2000 GT. It is a curbside, and I think you kind of have to be a little bit of a lover of vintage Japanese kits to appreciate the sort of UFO style that this car has. But it is back out. This one had been out of production for a little bit, and it's good to see it back just as a stock stuffer, so to speak. Because if you wanted to get one, you kind of had to track them down on eBay, and the Japanese eBay people always know when their kits are out of production and raise their price accordingly. So it'd be nice to have this one back in the under $20 range. And that, guys and gals, will be what we have for this week. Again, not a lot. The only real thing we're waiting on, perhaps, Aoshima's November announcements, and it's probably going to be it for November, too. November, not shaping up to be a huge month. December, well, I should say it this way. November will be a large month because there will be all of these All Japan Toy and Hobby and Model Show kits that will be filtering into the announcements. But as far as the spot runs go, there's not a whole heck of a lot to talk about as of right now. The Aoshima list will bulk out by the time we do our November video in about 3 weeks. So anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you on the other side.